So we are here with Deri, who is an amazing entrepreneur. He's the founder of BGI and Strategy on a Page. He's a keynote speaker. He's an author. He's an adventurer, adventurous guy overall. And you have so much. I have so many questions about many topics about what you do: coaching, education, adventure, sports. I don't even know what to start with. But the first thing that comes to mind is that is what you put forward in on your website and in your biography, and I think it's amazing that you climb 6 or 7 of the highest mountains in the world. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it all began. It's all part of one of my main messages. I think generally it's the mantra I live by, which is live a life of no regrets, build a business of no regrets. And for me, that's been what's guiding me for 15 years now. And it's a different question, right? So when I first asked myself that question many years ago, is if I died tomorrow, what would I regret? One of the regrets was adventure. I just had this burning desire inside of me to go and explore and, do the coolest things and the most exciting and crazy challenges on earth. Loads of excuses clearly of why not and all that kind of bullshit that we put ourselves through. But that was now some people that might be music, or it might be yoga, or it might be art or magic, right? If it's you, right? So you got no regrets on that front. But for me, it was adventure, and that was my drawing. So I decided that at that point, it was all about ultra endurance, hence Marathon des Sables. As a French person, you're probably one of the only people that can say that properly. Marathon des Sables was one of the first adventures, and it went on into, the poles are on my list. I just think I want to go and explore the world, right? I want to see this magnificent earth that we live on and just see it from the most amazing perspectives. And for me, climbing the highest mountain on every continent was part of that journey. And I'm very blessed to have climbed a lot of them now. Still got a few to go, and still got a couple of summits to do. But I've got no regrets in that I've seen the world from the highest points of North America, South America, Africa, Europe, and the Himalaya. So it's, and Mother Nature is just incredibly beautiful from those heights.
I bet it is. But it's also the way to get there. I guess you learn a lot on yourself, the preparation, everything, right? It's a whole journey. It's not necessarily the heights at the end, I guess.
Well, it's the classic metaphor. A lot of people use this, as a metaphor in life and for business. I can honestly say I've done it. So and the metaphor is true. And I think the most profound thing about the metaphor is it is the journey, right? Because if you think about a summit, if I took Elbrus, Kilimanjaro, whatever, any of those mountains, I'm on the summit for minutes. You are spending typically years building up to being able to, especially the big mountains, the Himalaya, etc. It's years of journey, thousands and thousands of miles worth of work, blood, sweat, tears along the way, and to stand on the summit for minutes, right?
Yeah.
That's life, right? And this is this bullshitty goal setting mentality, because we hit a goal and you have the euphoria for minutes. So if it's about the goal, then I think we're really hitting the wrong points, right, of life. And mountains taught me that. So for me, it's absolutely about the journey. It's about enjoying every part of the journey. And I love mountains. I'm never happier than when I'm on a mountain. I really am. So, the journeys, and it wasn't that way to start off with. I started with ego, right? I just let's just climb the highest mountains in the world. I didn't quite realize just how magnificent they were and how much they'd test me, right? In every way, shape and form. But no, I love mountains. They're definitely in my soul. And I think they're one of the greatest metaphors of life. But it's not just about the summit. It's definitely one of the key metaphors that come out of
that. What I love about what you do because I'm in the coaching business, if I can say so about myself, and I kind of know this industry a little bit, but what I've seen from you and what you do in your books and strategy and your videos and your diamond life design and everything, it's different. There is always a little bit of an element that is a little bit different, and that's what I like. And when you talk about goal setting, usually in coaching is the basics, right? Like, yeah, just set a goal and then we'll see, then we can see the steps. And you say that for you, goal setting is not necessarily about the goal. So can you elaborate a little bit about that maybe?
Yeah, and look, this is very controversial, this topic, and I think it's part of an evolution. So for me, I'm always about trying to break back down, whether it's business or life, to its core components. You know, what makes me tick? What makes you tick? What makes a business tick? So I'm always looking at frameworks and models of what makes that work. Now, I started a goal setting, right? So, and I think a lot of people do, as you enter the personal development world or whatever, we start on this journey and everyone talks about goals. There's nothing wrong with having goals. For me, I'm kind of surpassed goal setting, should we say that? Because, and here's why, they're very binary. And a goal is more of a, I want to do that by this point. Okay, smart goal setting, right? You specific, you measurable, you're achievable, you're realistic, you're timely. Okay, check. And we're going to do it by then. Now, that's quite egotistic.
Yeah.
Because we are dictating to the universe or whoever, whatever you decide you want to believe in life, of exactly how you're going to do things, when you're going to do them, and by what time. Now, what we are doing by doing that, and it depends on what spiritual journey you're on, you're kind of bypassing a lot of the magic. Right? So we are dictating exactly what we want and when we want it. That's the ego running the show. Now, I've had a lot of experience with the ego running the show, and I'm still working on it. I'll be working on it to the day I die. But I also know that I let a lot go these days. I'm a lot more about letting go. And then that's just a different journey, right? It's a different evolution. So for me, it's more about being clear. And I think this is where Diamond Life Design comes in, which is the framework of how I kind of design and integrate my entire life. The points of the diamond, and it is a diamond, the whole framework, it looks like a diamond, right? The points at the top of the point is not a goal, it's a feeling. And I think that is what I learned the hard way over 20 years, is I was busy chasing goals, chasing summits, to just have this momentary fleeting minutes of supposedly feeling good, right? And actually, ironically, when you do have a slight euphoria when you're on the summit of a mountain, and it's a slight euphoria because you're absolutely wrecked. You're in total exhaustion. You have a moment of sitting back and enjoying the view, but you have to be careful because you don't, basically die when you're there, and you've got to get back down because you're only halfway there. So even in some of the most beautiful, magnificent, amazing places I've been, on the summits of some of the highest mountains in the world, it was fleeting. Right? Now, if we are chasing life and chasing goals all day long for those moments along the way, we've missed life. So for me, what I realized was, and it took me a decade to work that out, is the only thing that truly matters is not the goals I'm hitting, because actually a lot of you have achieved your goals and you got your goals and you didn't feel good about it. The only thing that matters is feeling. Now that's going a little bit woo-woo, right? And everyone's, I'm supposed to be the strategy man, and I do all this, working with CEOs and everything else. Yeah, but if you build a company and you build a multi-million-pound company that you're proud of, and you exit it, and you actually fall into depression, which happens a lot, by the way.
Yeah,
if you build an incredible company and you're smashing profits, and you just from the the FTSE 100, whatever, looking at you going, that's amazing, and yet you are miserable inside, and you just lost your marriage and your kids don't speak to you, is it really about the goal?
What's the point? Yeah, what's the point?
Right? So I'm just going, goals can be part of the journey. I'm not anti-goals. I like objectives more than goals. I like to have clear objectives, cleared. One of my good friends, Derek Mills, he talks about daily standards, and I love his work on daily standards. So I like to have a standard, knowing what's important, know what matters, going for the big stuff, allowing the magic to happen around it. But always coming back to the feelings, because I think I can certainly speak as a egotistical man in my 20s, right? Where I was kind of smashing and goal setting and doing all this stuff, which is what we were told to do. That was success, right? But it wasn't, it was empty. And I think we've got to just be careful with that. We're chasing what matters. that we're doing what is meaningful. And if we're going to choose goals, choose them really carefully and ensure that you're empowered throughout the way. So I could go on all day long about goals. You didn't tell me you were going to hit me on goal set.
It's super interesting, and I wonder, do you think most people feel like they still are going to chase those goals so they understand what you mean by saying what you mean now? Because that's what I feel sometimes. Like, I know, yeah, you're right, but at the same time, I have this going on. I need to go to this. I need to reach that goal, right? And when they'll get there, they'll have what you say. They'll say, "Well, you know, when I was in my 20s and I was egoistical, and now I understood." Do you think we have to go through this journey, or is there a way that we can have a glimpse of what you perceive, what you learn through your experience?
I think both can work. It depends on the intent. Most of the people I work with are older, right? They are CEOs, they are business owners. These are, you know, very experienced people. So therefore, the work I'm talking about, when you're talking to someone who's run a business for 15 years, or, you know, multiple successes, that, you know, 2-time success on the entrepreneurial exits, whatever, this makes sense. We can have some really, because we've had the battle scars. We've made the mistakes, we've chased the goals, we fucked it up, we've done that. So now it's like, oh yeah, now that makes sense now, Deri, right? Yeah. Whereas there'll be some, I know there's a 20-year-old listening to this going, balls to that, I'm just going for my goals. So I'm just going Now, I think if someone's tried to tell me this when I was in my 20s, if my ego's in the way, which it was in my 20s, I probably wouldn't have listened myself, right? That's true. Is there another way? Yeah, I do believe. And I also think that, sadly, a lot of when I'm on the stages, I get people from the audiences when I'm to various messages, whether that's from the regrets message, the design message, the strategy message, it's all kind of the same stuff, which is live full, right? Live fully, build the right businesses. So people go, yeah, I get it. I totally get it because, and then it's because I lost my father, because I suffered this injury, because I had this life-threatening thing. It's kind of second life is what I call it. People that either looked death in the eye, experience massive failure. We have to almost go through the furnace.
You had an experience like that. In your TED talk, you talk about such an experience, right? Did it come from that experience, this way of going deep about life and death and regrets, or did you have it before?
No, I had to go through it myself, right? So I've looked death in the eye many times along the way because I've done some stupid things, right? Especially on the crazy adventures. It took the loss of my father, which is what I talk about on the TED talk. My father dying was my wake-up call. And it's because he died with regret. That's why my message of no regrets come from. I saw, when you see, and it's everyone's got different relationships with their parents, right? But my father was a great man, a good father, and I thought he was happy. I really did. He seemed to have it all. He was a happy, really funny, carefree man who seemed to have it all in life. And he died, and in his last days was telling me how much he regretted. So I'm like, shit, I'm not going out like that. And that was my moment. You know, I've had several since then. You know, on Everest was a one, on Denali was a big one. And more recently, I actually got hit by COVID early this year. So, so I had COVID very badly in end of February, early March, before it became a real thing, right? It was still, everyone was pointing to China at that point, I think, right? So, I mean, it took me out. I thought I was done. I was very close to death with COVID. So now that was not my choice. I faced death several times, but that's because I put myself on Everest and I put myself on Denali. I made choices to be in incredibly dangerous environments, of which I looked death in the eye. That was my fault. I could take responsibility for that one. COVID was my choice. It's nobody's choice, right? But earlier on this year, I was massively affected. It's left me fully deaf. That's why you said about my headphones earlier. I don't wear headphones because I'm fully deaf. I've lost my hearing fully on one side, which I'll never get back because that was the substance.
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID, it's now actually become a thing. So it destroyed my entire inner ear, so I can't balance or anything. So I'm learning to run again.
Wow.
So no, I only tell you that is because that's another moment right? When you look death in the eye, and I think that was more profound earlier on this year, because that wasn't my choice. It makes life even more precious. Right? It makes, I always say, if you die tomorrow, what would you regret? Right? That's a very different question to what's your goals then. But see, what should we go for? The goal setting and going for stuff is a chase. If you died tomorrow, what would you regret not doing is meaningful. And again, this year I was able to step back after recovery from COVID going, shit, all right, now I'm still here. Thank God, right? I am still here. What do I now do? Because I've been blessed again. I'm like a cat with 9 lives, right? I'm blessed again to be here. Now, the good news is I had no regrets still. Now, what do I do? So I've just had these moments, and I think looking death in the eye is profound, right? It wakes you up. It makes you ask you different questions. And here's the clue. Whenever I've done this, or whenever I've looked death in the eye, the answers are always very simple and very profound. And it always comes back to, and it's the regret study we did. We did a whole global study on regrets. And it always comes back to the basics. And the number one regret is always love. And it's who you love. It's telling those people around you love. It's your love relationship. It's your children's
family as well, I guess.
Right? And yet, where's your goals for that? Yeah. So you go, now, by the way, there can be, you can put amazing goals around, you can put amazing principles around love. You can do so much focus. And yet, if you look at the traditional goal setting world, it's based around getting stuff, fucking cars and fast stuff, and it's toys, right? That's what I disagree with. I think the goal setting principle directed properly and meaningfully can work for some people, right? But I'm more interested in what really matters. That's what we're talking about here.
And your mindset, we can also already see it's very different, maybe through your experience, because you lost part of your hearing, and yet you're grateful, which is not the case with many people. They would say, COVID, I lost this, and this happened to me, and now and yet I guess you were mad. I guess you're not super happy about this, but you transformed it into something positive. So this is also something. How do you think people can train that mindset?
It takes time, right? But it starts with you've already nailed it, right? I think one of the primary feelings, which I kind of try to work on every single day, and I have done for 20 years, by the way, and it was really difficult 20 years ago, is gratitude. It doesn't take much to look around you and feel grateful. I am in awe of this planet. The world that we live on is just insanely beautiful, insanely complex. You can take a look out of the window, just look at what you're wearing or what you're eating, and just think about what it took to get that on your plate or on the clothes on your back, and just how magnificently this planet flows. Look at the sky, look at the sunset, look at the water, right? And it's that nature is incredible. This world is incredible. We are fucking it up. By the way, which is part of my next legacy. I'm on a mission now to help transform that, and I'll do whatever.
We're going to talk about that as well. Don't worry, I want to talk about that.
I think David Attenborough, who's an amazing man, and his recent documentary on Netflix. Anyone who hasn't watched it, watch it and do something about it.
What's the name of the documentary?
It's our planet.
Okay.
Life on this planet.
We can find it with keywords, I guess.
Netflix, you can't miss it. So this planet we live in is just insanely beautiful, and we as human beings are destroying it for our own egoic, ridiculous needs. And that's the bit we got to stop. And again, if you come back to what matters, right? If we can get back to what matters, it's about love. It's about connection, right? It's about health. It's not about more toys and more this and more that. We're all this more, and more is not serving us. So, we've got to get back. I think what's taught me, and look, I was the first, anyone that knew me in my 20s, they go, look at Deri, he was a real arse, right? He was in his 20s, right? Probably still think I am now. is that because I was all about more and ego and all the rest of it. And I went on the adventures for ego. Let's go and conquer the highest mountains in the world. That's how it began, see? And then guess on my first outing, I got brought to my knees, brought to tears in the middle of the desert, and nearly broke myself in front of Mother Nature. And then I realized the Sahara Desert, it's just incredibly beautiful. You know, running 6 marathons across the Sahara, one of them's through the night, seeing the stars like you've never seen them before. The sky is just, you can see why our ancestors would have been so in awe of the night sky. If you're living in the city, you might not have ever seen it properly. But the stars, the sky, the sunsets, the sunrises, it was just insane. Broke myself in the process of running across it. And that was part of the majesty. I realized my ego needed to be shaken out of me because I was ego driven. Now, as I climbed more and more mountains, I gave myself to the mountains to an extent. I wasn't there to conquer it. If those mountains decided to let me up, then I would summit. In some cases, they didn't, because close to the summit, we were shut down. I respect Mother Nature, because Mother Nature's are a lot more powerful than we are. Thank you very much, no matter what we think as human beings. So, but no, I'm just so in awe and so grateful every single day. And I think that's the most, how did I train that? Daily. I'm feeling pissy. It's back to feeling, right? Which is what we began this conversation with, which is my job every single day is to just feel good, right? Just feel good in myself. Now, the moment I'm feeling shit, or I'm feeling stressed, or I'm feeling worried, by the way, they all come regularly. I've got to pull myself back and just go and say, well, what's going on here? So, and typically, one of the things that's going to shift me out of that is just starting to feel grateful for something. Being grateful for my beautiful partner, my children, the food I eat, being out in nature, the beautiful views. Just take the fact that I can hear from one ear, right? And this is it. And don't get me wrong, I've had my moments because I didn't even know if it was ever coming back, and it's not now. The ENT consultants confirmed that the inner ear is completely destroyed. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I am blessed. I've got one ear. Right, because COVID could have gone a completely different way for me. I'm asthmatic, so COVID could have left me really shit, and there's a million people dead, right? So I'm still here, yay! And now I'm bulletproof because I've had COVID, so I got the immunities, so I'm good, right? So because I could be pissy and moany about having it, or I could be grateful that I've had it, I got the immunity, I survived. Okay, I've lost my hearing, but I can hear out the other ear. And actually, it's quite helpful every now and again, because then I could just ignore the person next to me if I don't want to listen. So
hopefully I'm faced to you and not on the wrong side.
Look, if you ask me a difficult question, I just go like that. Sorry, because I didn't hear you. So
no, but I think you sum it up in one word. You said daily, and I think that's this is amazing, because we don't hear that enough in the coaching world, especially talking about grateful. We hear kind of, but grateful and ego is something everyone has to work on daily. It doesn't matter how much time, but daily, right? And it's a conscious effort to do.
And I would go further. We start at the top of the diamond. And if anyone goes on my website, Deri.live.
So tell us a little bit. What's the diamond life design? Tell us how it works, kind of in the main lines.
It's a methodology, okay? And it's there on Deri.live. There's a whole little video series on that. So you can go and kind of talk you through it. I created strategy on a page nearly 15 years ago now, which has been used quite brilliantly in the scale-up world and the strategic world. I'm actually, although I'm founder, I don't run that company anymore. Ian Mitchell runs that CEO brilliantly, and we've got great accredited partners, around the world who is spreading that methodology. So, and I'm, very blessed to impact the business world the way I have with that methodology. That is essentially simplifying the complex. That I guess is my gift. If I want to call it anything, the gift that I was given was my ability to simplify the complex and make it understandable, right? And that's what I did in the business world. Now, whilst I was doing that in the business world, I was also doing it in my personal world. Because you think a business is complex, which it is. Life is a little bit more complex. And it's got more moving parts, actually. So I've been working off a methodology for 15 years, and personally, and it evolved. And it was, I didn't set out to create a methodology. I set out to be able to map my life, orchestrate my life to ensure that I live the best life I could be in all areas, That's how it began. And it evolved. It wasn't always a diamond. It just happened that I was on the wall. I always had big vision boards up, but my vision boards were more action boards. It wasn't just pictures on a wall. This is why I don't agree with vision boards. Pictures on a wall is part of it, but actually what are you going to do and what's the profound steps and how are you going to make that come alive, right? So it became, and I just remember looking at the wall once, and Andrea Pennington, who's partnered with me on this project, who's an amazing lady in the media. So Andrea looked at this on my wall and she went, "What's that?" And I said, "Well, that's just how I architect my life." And she went through it and she went, "That's amazing. You've got to bring that to the world." And I'm like, no, I'm right, thanks. I'm busy over here with you.
Pennington?
And Andrea Pennington, she kind of...
You teamed up on the Diamond Life design thing, right?
So she's a dear friend of mine, and because she saw it all, we co-authored it. So we've done a whole video series, which is going out live soon around it.
Nice.
It was just, and also we're different. Me and her, male and female, black and white, European and American. We've got very different views on life. She's Buddhist. I'm spiritual in a way. So it enabled us to not just have, it's not Deri's opinion, it's a methodology.
Nice.
It's just a structure and a framework. But it's a structure framework to literally orchestrate all of life and all of life's rhythms, right? Now, this is the important bit to answer your question, Butzi, which is, you talked about the day. So the top part of the diamond is bringing it, the big stuff, which is what's the feelings we ultimately seek. We begin with feeling and we end with feeling. We then bring it through the ultimate roles in life and what matters, right? And then it's into the big vision, the big objectives, no goals. And then we bring it into the year to go, okay, what are the things that matters, the big stuff this year for me across all areas of life that matter? And you start to see that feels a bit like the wheel of life and stuff. The wheel of life didn't work for me. It was very binary. Then we bring it into the real action. There's a whole band in the middle. I won't go into that because it's a bit more complex. But then we literally bring it into the quarter, the month, the week, the day. Because actually, it's all very well, we all sit here with these big aspirations, these goals, and we don't join the dots up to the day. You've got to bring it back to the day. And I go further than that because the final pinnacle of the diamond isn't the day, it's the moment. And so the thing that you're picking up on there, Deri, it's actually about doing this every day, isn't it? No, it's not. It's about doing this every moment. And that's mastery, which is never done, by the way, unless you are, there's a few people,
something
I think.
You tend to.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that every single day. Now, if you are sitting there once, and this is what affirmations and stuff come in play, right? Which I'm like, okay, part of it again. But if you sit there once a day, right, and decide to be grateful once a day, that's bloody good progress, but it's certainly not mastery.
Yeah.
The trick is every single moment you should be checking in with your feelings. You're feeling all the time. Yeah. You know, your feelings, people listening to this have flitted their feelings. Some people have got pissed off with something I've said 10 minutes ago and then suddenly joyfully delightful again. Moments are changing. Now, that's our beacon, right? For me, it's the feelings is what I think. And I think males are more guilty of this than female. I think females are a lot more connected. This is why we need more female leaders on this planet, because they're more connected to their feelings and understanding. It's the men, we've kind of buttoned away our feelings. In fact, we were told to when we were kids not to feel. I certainly was. So therefore, we've overdeveloped our thinking. This is when I do extreme performance work. So I work with CEOs and leaders on extreme performance. It's not about the physical. A lot of people think about the Ironman. So I've done the Ironman challenge as well, and all of these physical endurance events. They all see the physical, especially the males. They can see the physical piece and the mental piece. I think everyone recognizes the mental toughness needed to do this stuff. Yeah. Actually, there's an emotional toughness that's needed to do this stuff.
Okay.
And it's this feelings bit, I think, that we've dodged the most. I certainly did. It was my biggest downfall along the years, is that I didn't pay enough attention to the feeling. I was trying to overthink everything and I thought I could think my way out of everything. You know, think to grow rich, think that, you know, all of the personal development world, a lot of this is built off thinking, which we need, right? We need to control this mind.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But actually, I don't think enough attention has been given to the emotional side.
How would you define emotional toughness in your words? And I'm interested in that. Well, how would you say you're emotionally tough?
Well, let's just say, let's use a different word, that emotionally aware.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're emotionally, I think, yeah, probably emotional toughness probably doesn't resonate. I'll take that one back,
Okay,
because it is
aware.
the ability that when I'm feeling pissy. So the emotional toughness to me is when I'm sitting there and suddenly I'm feeling doubt. Right? You want to get to somewhere. I want to be an Ironman, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh shit, I can't ride that bike. I just can't do it. I hadn't ridden a bike since I was a kid, right? Or I've just done a 100-mile bike ride and I'm exhausted. How am I supposed to do it?" When I'm feeling doubt, now that's partly thought, but a lot of it's emotion, right? When I am halfway up the mountain and then the blizzards are coming in and you think you're going to die, it's this fear is the emotion. It's not the thought. So actually, it's being able to understand the vast array of emotions that we've been blessed and given with, both negative and positive. And when you're sliding into the wrong side of the spectrum of that, and you're into anger or frustration or doubt or whatever, you've got to be able to know where you are, be incredibly aware of where you are, and get yourself back out of that quickly.
Yeah.
That's what I call emotional toughness or emotional resilience, which is you just got to be able to turn. And the question is, how much of your time are you in the negative stuff and how much of the time are you in the positive stuff? And so many of us, in the personal development world, it's all focused on positive psychology. That's the thinking bit. It's the emotional bit that I think is the piece. Tony Robbins does this brilliantly. I remember I've spent time with Tony Davies 20 years ago. I think he's one of the great masters that's gone deep into the emotional aspects, and one of the few teachers that have, I think.
And it's what I thought was super interesting related to that. Also, in your TED talk, you talk about fear, and you have the awareness to say it's ego based fear. So it's not any fear. It's not just you're aware of one feeling. Oh, I'm afraid, but you also have the awareness, if we can say those words, to know where it comes from. So what would you call, how would you define ego-based fear? You talked a little bit about ego, about emotional awareness. How would you define that?
So it's a great question. The reason I did the TED Talk, if we rewind, is I've been talking on the stages about regret, right, for 15 years because of the episode that happened with my father, right? Yeah. I've been challenged on that a lot, by the way. Along the way, and I'm happily talk about that to anyone, because a lot of people think it's negative or no regrets. You should have a positive spin on it, and I disagree. I think it's a profound statement that works for me and works for a lot of people, actually.
What is the criticism? I didn't understand. What do people tell you?
We should live a life of no regrets, right? What would you regret in life? A lot of the positive psychologists have actually had a number of criticisms where they're like, no, we should never focus on the negative. You should only ever.
No, I don't agree either.
I say bollocks to that. That's what I say to them. I continue to say, right? So, because I'm like, that's nice. If that works for you, go. It doesn't work for me. Actually, the driver, because some of us are motivated towards pain and some of us are motivated towards pleasure. Right? That pain bit gives me the kick in the ass I need to make sure I do the right things. Right. So when I started teaching this no regrets piece and also building businesses in no regrets, that's very profound work that we do in the strategy world. What became clear was that there was quite similar regrets going on. That's when we did the global study, right, of what are the 6 top regrets in life. Again, that's on Deri.live, so you feel free to go there. And the number 1 is love. I've kind of spoiled
we will share your website at the end. On post-production, I'll put everything.
Plenty of content there for you. But what was clear is actually what stopped people in those regrets, right? And I won't spoil the other 5 for you, but what is it that if you're regretting something, what's stopping you doing that? Well, why do you regret it? Why haven't you done it? And the biggest blocker for most of the 5 success regrets was fear. So that's why when I was asked to do the TED Talk, because I got asked to close out the keynote convention in Edinburgh, and they said, Deri, choose your topic, you can do anything. And I just thought, cool, let's just play. Because I was, I didn't want to do strategy or anything. I went, let's just do fear, because that's the blocker. Hence why I chose that title. Now, fear, as you've already alluded to, again, it's an emotion. It's not, you don't think your way out of fear. Good luck with that. It's an emotional trigger that happens so fast you can't control it most of the time. right? Now, when I say ego-based fear, it's actually, we did some research around this, so you can literally Google that, right? Because fear, and this is why I use the title F*** the fear, it's not real anyway, because fear is not something we are born with. In fact, there's debate over this, but it says as a baby, I've got a little baby boy now again, I've got 4 kids. So when you're a baby, they're fearless. Like they just run around the place. Like he's got his adventurous genes from his daddy. He's trying climbing over everything. He's chaos, right? The only thing there's a slight fear of is falling or loud noises. That's allegedly the only fears we are born with, right? Okay. So you don't see babies scared of everything. You see them little adventurers going after everything. So therefore, where does fear come from? We learn fear, and that's part of the egoic state. So if you understand the ego, I'm fascinated by the egoic mind. So a lot of people use this word ego very wrongly. Ego is not just some bloke over there who's a complete knob and no one likes him, right? Because he's full of himself. That's not ego. That's just a label that's been put on. The ego from Freud or whoever else you want to look at the ego from, it's our construction of the world. We've all got an ego. We don't get rid of it. You know, someone says, I haven't got an ego. Well, you don't exist then, right? So we've all got one and we've all constructed it. And the job of the ego is to keep that construction intact. So whatever model of the world we've built, the ego will, at all consequences, try to protect that, which is why it's right and wrong and all this fighting is going on in the world. It's an egoic world on many levels. And that's part of the brutality of what's going on out there. It's driven by ego, right? Or a constructed ego. So therefore, where's fear come from? Fear is constructed. Because we don't all have the same fears. If fear was an inbuilt system in humankind, we would all fear the same things, which we don't. There's insane fears. You know, people fear of going outside and fear of spiders and fear of this and fear of that. Yeah. So it's constructed. And actually, when you then look back deeper into the fear theories, this is where the egoic fears have come from. There's a whole theories around egoic fear. It's not mine. That's written and documented egoic theories, saying that what is fear? It's fear of failure. Fear of rejection. So you've got these primary driving fears. I've got that in my TED talk, by the way. So go watch the TED talk and you see the main egoic fears listed there. But that's our primary drivers, and those are the ones that are messing most people up. Right? A big one for entrepreneurs, etc., is the fear of rejection. Right? Fear of failure. Equally, and I didn't understand this one fully, but it really is out there, fear of success.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one. I think we could debate on it for
you go all day on that one.
It's a tricky one. But it's often disguised, the fear. I've noticed any fears, they are disguised in something else, and people don't necessarily, not everyone, but most people don't take the time to see what's behind the costume, right? And oftentimes when we feel something or when we say something or we find an excuse, that's the typical thing, we find excuses. And what's behind this excuse? Oh, it's a fear. It's a fear that comes from this, from failure, from everything you said. So it's kind of tricky. It's not like you're sad, you're sad, right? I mean, there are nuances, of course, but fear, sometimes it's a little bit tricky. People don't want to see it.
Well, a lot of it, it's unconscious, right? This is the point of fear, because it's an emotional base. It's unconscious. So back to, we think we can solve everything with our minds. Not really. This is, how do you solve an emotional trigger, which is subconscious and you don't even know it's there, right? That takes some real profound personal work. And consistent personal work. Again, people go to a course on a weekend and then they, a transformational course, and they're done, and they think that they've been transformed. No. Transformation happens on a daily, momentary basis, which is consistent. Consistency is the key to it. So if you don't ask, and most people are not, the reason I'm bringing these topics up is, for most people, this is not conscious, right? So you're 100% right. But see, most people go, I don't have any fear of failure. Well, you don't consciously have it, then, but why are you sabotaging yourself over that? And why aren't you doing that? And what's those excuses? And this is where coaching, I'm actually not a coach. I sit on boards and I mentor companies and I'm a consultant more than I am. I do elements of coaching in my work, but I'm not really a coach.
Yeah, it's a broad term, I said, but it's a very
and a lot of people use that word, and I only say it because coaching is a methodology and a questioning technique, which I'm massively in favor of. And this, by coaching, helps this work. I'm just being clear. Don't come to me for coaching, right? Because don't do it. But for those who want to go deeper on this work, this is where coaches are brilliant. We've got a whole band of coaches we work with globally. They're for execs and high-level execs, and they're amazing because this work, it's very hard for you to recognize this stuff on yourself.
Yeah.
This is where coaching comes in, right? Equally, sometimes we need a more profound moment or a transformational moment in life. Those can be triggered in some of the amazing events. Tony Robbins is great at transforming and triggering transformational moments in events. So this can be done in different ways, but this is deep thinking here. And a lot of people don't want to do that. But equally, don't bullshit me. This is why I'm saying people go, oh, do you want to do something? What's stopping you? Because it's what's stopping you is the big question. And a lot of the time it's fear, but you're not aware of it.
Yeah.
It's so deep and it's so rooted sometimes in childhood anchors or whatever that you wouldn't even know it's there.
Yeah.
I'll shut up on that front now. I could go all day long on fear.
No. It's also, it seems to me that, so tell us a little bit about strategy on the page, because it seems to me that you became famous with that, right? That's what you did at the beginning. That's what at the beginning. That's you did before the Diamond Life Design, and now you focus more on the Diamond Life Design. And now it seems like you almost moved on from there, kind of like from what you were saying in this podcast. So can you tell us a little bit about, just a few words, what is strategy on the page? You wrote a book about this and people can find it. We'll put it on the bottom as well. And how did you evolve through that from this thinking and emotional dynamic?
So for me, life and business is an evolution. All right. So although strategy on the page is where I began, and I still have my hand in it, I practice what I preach in business, which is I build a business and then I find better people than me to run that business, so I'm not running the business, right?
Okay.
Otherwise, you just trap yourself in the very thing that was supposed to free you. That's a big part of what I preach with strategy and fact. So Ian Mitchell and the team run BGI brilliantly, and I'm still involved. I keep my hand in, very little. They do a better job than I do. Thank you very much. And now again, Diamond Life Design, that's been built. That'll be launched more properly in the coming months. There's a bigger suite because we're all about productivity, performance, and design under the whole Deri brand now. And Nikki Owen runs that. So it's still going. So it's not that those businesses, and it's important, it's not like I've done that, because a lot of entrepreneurs just try something and then just move on and do the next one. I build and then I make sure it's maintained and someone's running it, and then I do the next one. So actually I'm doing all of them. Okay. Well, I'm not actually. I oversee all of them and I'm involved in all of them without actually running any of them, right? Because that's, I think, what business should be. I can't impact millions of people if I'm running the businesses. It's not the way I can impact. But now I'm in Raglan Country Estate, which is the new venture, which actually pulls from all the others in a way. And I wanted to be more impactful with nature, bringing people back to nature. I was running my own retreats. I run strategic retreats. We run transformational retreats. I've been part of the European transformational movement for over a decade. And we've always really struggled to find venues, right, to run proper transformational movements. So if you want to bring people away and get them really connected to nature and transform them through, whether it's your coaching processes or whether that's business exec leadership programs, typically you do it out of a hotel room and it's compromised. So I decided to change that. And I got so pissed in the end, I went, right, I'm going to do it myself then. So we've bought 127 acres of land in the Welsh borders. We are creating
that's amazing.
A beautiful conference facility for a very high-end event. So this is only for like 20 to 25 people, very exclusive, beautiful settings, eco-friendly, eco units in the grounds. We're rewilding everything. We're planting, we're farming. So it's back to this planet again, which is, we're all smashing businesses and everything else. I've got a much more of an eco sense to will never help any business that's having a destruction part on this planet. We should be leaving this planet better. We should be leaving nature better. And so Raglan's the part of the next legacy project for me. But we'll run retreats from Diamond Life in there. We'll run retreats from Strategy on the Page in there. So I'm actually building my own retreat center. That's what I'm doing for the world. So it all joins up. There's method to it all. Just my purpose evolves, and this is the point, is what matters. What's connected. As you evolve and grow, you theoretically will evolve and grow in what matters to you. And to me now, I want to be able to impact thousands upon thousands of acreage on this planet, to rewild it and bring it back to what it should be, and leave this planet a little bit better place for the parts of it that I'm able to touch than it is now. And I certainly don't want to ever be the business guy that came along and made shitloads of money and destroyed part of the planet and its resources as a result of being here. That I would die with regret on. And I hope any business leader that's doing that is watching this and trying to think differently, because that's what's destroying the planet for us at the moment.
So I really want to go further with your retreat thing. Just I want to close that chapter on a strategy on the page, and also about entrepreneurs, because I think it would be interesting for people who are watching us, that maybe if you have a couple of advice for them based on everything, and it's not only strategy and make money and make profit, you're going to say different things, I guess. But if you had, let's say, 3 main advice to give to an entrepreneur, let's say a young entrepreneur, not necessarily a guy who already built his company, someone who wants to launch his business or just started, and you would have 3 main advice to give him, what would you say?
I'll take directly from Strategy on a Page as a methodology. Yeah. So then anybody that wants to go away, you'll see the 3 components. There's 6 to 9 core components on the page. I'll give you the 3 that matter, right, for the startup.
This they can find on your book, right?
The book. If you go to the BGI website, it's there. So this is a common methodology.
Put the link below.
I'm going to just leave you hanging. I hate it when people just leave you hanging with 3 completely different novels. Yeah. Executes, right? You'll see the execution come in a minute. The first thing is build a business on purpose. That's a huge part. It's always been a big part of what I've done. I've been saying this for 15 years, and I was quite. If you go back 15 years, I was quite punchy and revolutionary at the time, saying you should only build businesses on purpose, and you should go deep on that purpose and truly understand what it is. And you should be proud of the business that you're building, and you should be passionate about the business you're building. And I've stuck by that message for 15 years, and I've never believed in it more than I believe in it now. Because if you're going to spend the time and the energy, and you're going to throw your heart and soul into something, and you're doing that just for money, I just think you've just thrown your life away. Now, in the early days, you may chase the money. That's fine. In the 20s, sometimes we do that. Just try to wake up earlier than I did. Try to get that message earlier. And actually, you can, if you do build a great business, one that you're proud of, one that you're passionate of, that's your competitive weapon. So if you want to look at it like that way, just use it as a competitive weapon, because the passion will get you through the dark days. The purpose will help you compete against any competitors that don't give a shit. So, purpose isn't some fluffy thing to do. We've actually got metrics around this in BGI. We've got proof of just how much profit, how profitable purpose-based companies are, just how magnificent purpose-based companies are. And it's also where the talent pool will be in the future. And that's been trending for 15 years on my watch. So purpose and passion within purpose, I think, is the fundamental part of any well-lived business. Remember, one of my messages, build a business of no regrets. That's a purposeful business, right? The second thing then is lock the strategy down. So it's all very well having purpose and vision and values and all the cool cultural stuff, which is critical. And I won't go there because you've only asked me to name 3, right? So I'll take purpose there if I'm only allowed 3. The next thing is execution, because a lot of people have got ideas and they're flying, and entrepreneurs are full of ideas. You must execute, otherwise you've got nothing. So we've got a scorecard on the BGI website where we track this. We literally can track just how confident you are in your business and how certain you are in your business. And therefore, we've got the rankings of this over thousands of businesses. And the thing that comes out weakest on most entrepreneurs consistently is execution. So we have found that one of the biggest faults within strategy is the execution of strategy. Very few people who have decided to set up a business or in the process of setting a business have got any lack of thought. They think they can think. Strategic thinking isn't the problem. Thinking and thinking what you need to do and almost planning what you need to do is still quite common. People can plan. It's strategic execution that's missing.
Okay.
Right. So execute is key. And then the third bit then is measure. All of these are components of strategy on a page, because then a lot of people are just executing and executing themselves like fools because they don't know if it's working. We must measure. Every strategy that's worth executing should be measured. Like any scorecard, like any sport, you need to measure to see where you're at. And a lot of people, I think, are killing themselves in businesses that don't work. I don't see that much of it now because I'm very blessed that I work on I always sit on about 12 boards, not on my own, of other companies. So I get to see amazing companies, but typically by the time those companies to me, I only get the more complex ones and the cool ones that stretch me a little bit. Otherwise I get bored. So I don't see what I used to see, but what I used to see when I used to see a lot more smaller businesses was, sadly, that a number of them just didn't work. And they would never work. And the poor entrepreneur was just bashing themselves. And it's like, you're not reading the numbers, because if you read the numbers, you'll see this company can never work. The scoreboard tells you, the profit and loss on the balance sheet tells you that you've never worked and you can't work and you can't even work on scale. And that's the sad thing. And I think the measurement, again, from us, the proof, the biggest fault in all of the measurements when we're collecting scorecards is measurement. People are not measuring the right things, don't understand measurement, and there's certainly a lack of understanding around profit and loss, cash flow, balance sheets. If you're running a business, you need to know that shit, right? Yeah. We just really do. And equally, you should be able to measure your success. And also, if it's not working, you need to change it fast. Well, actually, no, there's two things to that. I want to close it up because you've asked me for three things. There's two sides to that coin. If it's not working, you need to change it, but you need to know it's not working. I have the metrics to prove it's not working. Sadly, what's happening, and I had this conversation with a really big angel. He's one of the biggest angels in Singapore. We had this conversation literally months ago, and what he's seeing is in the younger entrepreneurs is they're actually changing too fast without measurement. So people are just like doing stuff and going, and there's some words for it in the entrepreneurial world now. It's like called a pivot, right? Since coronavirus, it's like it's all pivots. It's like there's a time and a place for a pivot, but actually a lot of it, like you're doing something, you actually don't even know if it works. You've got no metrics to prove if it works, but you know what? Balls to it. I don't think it's working, so I'm going to try something else. That's not strategic pivot. That's just flighty.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got to be careful. You want to change quickly based on data and metrics rather than just flightily just jumping from one to another, which is what entrepreneurs are at risk of. So that's my three. You asked for three. It's hard to boil business down into three.
They're really thought through. We can feel the experience through it, and I can definitely recognize myself, and I think all entrepreneurs can recognize themselves in different of those categories. I think measuring, especially, and I'm not surprised that a lot of entrepreneurs have difficulty with it, because it's also facing truth. It's like, let's look at the numbers, and you don't want to do it. Maybe sometimes you don't know how to do it. I like you say, understanding cash flow, profit and loss, and everything. But I'm sure that people could learn it pretty easily. If they learn it, they go through a program. There's so many things they can learn for free on the internet now. In a few days, they would know what it is. They wouldn't do it, so they can say, I don't know how to do it, because it's hard to face the truth. I certainly did a lot in the past. Now I'm getting better at it, but I totally recognize myself in that. Yeah. So it's.
I did a whole keynote on this. It's one of the keynotes I do. Numbers don't lie.
Oh.
That's a big, and I got a whole lot of data behind this, because numbers don't lie. And this is why strategy on a page, a third of the page is numbers, because show me the numbers. Don't tell me the strategy, because I don't believe you. Numbers next to the strategy, which is what strategy on a page is. It's a tracking mechanism, right? Show me the strategy of what you say you executed. Now show me the numbers to prove that you have. They don't lie. And yet you could bullshit yourself all day long on the strategic execution, right? And actually that's how the page has evolved. You'll see, keep in touch with us from BGI Strategy, any of those running businesses out there, because we're about to launch the tech platform, because we've recognized strategy on a page as the methodology. The biggest weakness in businesses was the numbers. So we've actually pulled a proper API dashboard right into the page. So it automatically populates. So you can't even have an excuse not to do it, because now we can actually take those numbers from Zero, CRM systems. We can literally API feed those directly in to the page. So there's no bullshitty excuses anymore, because we can go get the numbers for you. Because so many people, they weren't doing the page. Well, they were doing the page, all the bits they liked to do on the page, but they wouldn't do the numbers.
Okay.
So we've got a whole automated tech platform coming out to solve the problem for the business community. So watch this space.
Wow, that's amazing. We will certainly put the links in the description and in the videos. And so now, what's next? Next is your legacy. You talked about it in this way. I love that you use that word, and it's a legacy, and it's a new place where you're gonna have you're gonna create the opportunity to put your diamond life design forward and help people through that, and help them through their transformational adventures, and also the BGI and strategy on the page. But you also talked about, and we talked quickly about last time, a space for kids as well. So tell us about this place. It sounds amazing. We talked about it last time. I want people to know about it. Does it have a name, first of all? Not yet.
So we've opened actually a couple of weeks ago. So it's called Raglan Country Estate. So we have carved off 127 acres of land, with another 100 coming, hopefully. So we'll be a good few 100-acre site. We're rewilding a lot of that site. You know, we are like 7 lakes, and there's mountains and woodland, and we're rewilding a lot that's already there. We're putting in beautiful high-end eco cabins, but equally back to play, right? It's about bringing people back to nature. That's what we're all about. That's what I'm about. It's what I believe in. That's why I have my house in the country. I always have. I bring my kids up in the country because I want them to, have their feet in the grass and swim in the lakes and feel what nature's all about. So my kids are blessed that they've had that. And I recognize a lot of kids aren't. They don't have that if they're living in the city. So we want to give a place for people. And in the off season, it's there for retreats, right? Because whenever I run retreats, I don't want to run retreats in the summer holidays. So we run all the businessy transformational stuff, in the off seasons, but then during the summer holidays and Easter holidays, it's a family place, right? So it's for families to come and play, and we're putting in, we're building out some amazing stuff. It's getting kids back to play, right? That's the irony. They're all on their phones, and everyone's getting pissy about kids being on their phones. It's like, well, let's give them something different to do. In order to get them off the phones, you've got to give them a good reason to get off them, right? So we are hopefully putting a bit of augmented reality around the site, so they can actually be on their phones and in nature, but also putting in obstacle courses and zip wires and lake climbing, and a commando course going in. So we're just putting in epic adventures. We're working with your good friend, who I am on this call, is David Brower. So big shout out to David. David's working on some sensorial stuff for us to bring the senses alive across the site.
Just a note on that, we will have David Brower on the podcast. We will have him so he can talk about connection because David Brower introduced me to Deri. Deri talked at SCD, which is the event that David Brower used to organize, Sensorial Experience Day. And I used to do some magical stuff there as well. He will be on the podcast. So yeah, it's great that he's going to do some things. You talked about connection like last time about this place, connecting to you, to others, to nature, right?
Absolutely. And that's the essence of everything we're about, is connection, right? back to what matters, right? You know, what matters in life. And the more I evolve, the more I realize what matters truly is connection. It's the biggest regret that everyone has. So I wanted to create a space that facilitates that. So, and what, you know, so we are literally creating the space to enable and facilitate connection. Whether then you want to come away and just, you know, sit in one of those eco units and just be alone and experience nature in this, you know, full glass front is just you sitting there in nature, and you want to reconnect with yourself. Fantastic. If you want to reconnect with your family in a different way, you want to connect with your friends, you know, we're bringing, and this is where I think in bringing transformational retreats together, where you've got a group of people who are on a transformational journey together, you know, deep coaching over 3-day, 4-day periods or whatever. We're giving them the place to really do that, you know. But we're putting in big fire pits so you can sit outside properly. It's just like it's connection like humans used to connect. Used to sit around the campfire and connect, right? So let's bring it all back. So yeah, so it's going to be an epic adventure for the next forever for me. I think this is the first site. We're already open. We'll open properly in the spring for the big retreats, and but I've got an eye on doing this all over the world. So I truly believe that connection should happen everywhere, right? It's not also COVID's done what it's done, right? But it's also done a lot of good. And I think everyone's getting pissy about COVID. Again, we've got to look at the positivity side of it, which is, I know it's ballsed up a load of airlines, etc., but you know, we needed to travel less, right? As a species, we're destroying the planet. We needed to travel less. So I would be a hypocrite then if I just said everyone should fly to the UK to experience connection at a deeper level. So, okay, let's not do that. Let's get these centers replicated around the world. So let's get one in France, let's get one in Germany, let's get one in Italy. So then you don't have to travel to another country, you can all do them in your own country. So that's the grand vision. I think these centers should be everywhere. And we're putting a big high performance center as part of it. So if people are coming to connect, let's get your bloods done, let's get your microbiome done, let's get you tuned up. So we have a proper look at you to make sure that no matter what you want to do to really transform the world, that you're not actually screwing your body up whilst you're doing it as well. So we're putting those facilities in place to have a proper transformational experience.
I love that you see so big. It's like, let's do it in every country in the world. It's I love it. It's and you are walking your talk, so it's great. You are doing things with purpose. I really respect that. It's not the case with many people, and I've seen a lot of people. So I really respect that. And you're also dad. You said you had 4 kids, right? How old are they?
That takes a lot of my time.
Yeah, I guess, of course.
I get that's a big part of my legacy, right? Is that
that's why I'm bringing it up.
Looking at me now, my eldest daughter is 12, 13 soon, and we're having very adult conversations. And now she's looking at what work I do, and she's seeing what I'm doing at Raglan, and she's like, "Daddy, you know, what can we do about the planet? What can we do?" They care. You know, the next generation, I can save this planet. Yes. Yeah. And my job is to facilitate part of that for them, and we don't bolt it up before they even get a chance. So, you know, my kids are looking at me, and I don't want them to look at their dad in 20 years' time and go, "Daddy, you just did business stuff, and you just destroyed the planet, and you just raped the infrastructure and the resources just to make money." That's not the parent I want to be viewed as. They are looking at me as daddy's buying land in massive tranches to rewild it, bring eco back, give people jobs, give people opportunities, create something magnificent, bringing people back to play. And I'm talking to my kids all the time about it. I'm saying, well, what do we want to do next? So they're part of the journey. They're designing the obstacle courses. So it's like, what do you want to do? My teenager wants a hangout zone, right? She just wants this cool hangout zone. We're going to dig a big pit and put loads of cushions in it. And they want the little campfire. Yeah. So teenagers can hang out. I'm like, cool, let's build it. So that's facilitating connection. But they're facilitating the connection. I'm saying, what do you want? So it's beautiful to have my kids growing up and be participating in this. And hopefully they can look at their dad and say, my dad built something cool, and my dad was caring about what he did. And that's what I want to be remembered for, by my kids. And I think this is it. We all, and I was a real selfish bastard when I was in my 20s and in my early 30s. And I thankfully have taken time to wake up and look death in the eye a few times to go, that's not how I want to be remembered.
And what do you think? And then I'm gonna let you go after that because I know you're busy and you have a busy schedule. I just want to finish up with a couple of things, talking about kids and the future and your legacy and all that. And you said it's about what matters. What do you think matters the most for our kids, for the new generation, for kids K-12 age? Um, and what do you think is not taught at school and what should be taught at school or should be taught in some ways?
Oof, that's a big question. Do you know what? My instant reaction was back to the word we're using, which is connection. I don't think it's a generational thing. And I think we are so busy boxing people into generational biases. You know, the 70-year-olds need this, and the millennials this, and the X things needed this, and the Y, and then you got this whole new breed coming through. What do they need, right? I think we're all, and again, we're all boxed into you're American and you're this and you're that. I think we need to stop all of that. Stop all the boxes, stop all the labels. We are all human beings habiting on this planet together. And the sooner we can all recognize that and live in harmony on this beautiful place that we call Earth together, the better. And what do we all need? What is the common thing across all of us? What is the common regret across all of the studies? It's love and connection, right? I don't think our kids are any different than my grandma. The connection piece has been the consistency. Now, we are saying, now, I think we were more connected when I was a kid than my kids are now, even though we're supposedly the most connected society. Well, is this really connected?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure about that, actually. So I think, and what are they not taught in school? We're not taught connection and love, are we, in school? It's not part of the curriculum. So where are they going to get it from? And how do they learn to actually talk, not through WhatsApp, but to each other? And that's, thankfully, my kids I'm really proud of my kids. They're beautiful girls. I've got 3 girls and a little boy, which is who I've got to go and get in a little minute. But I'm proud of them because we brought them up, I think, incredibly well. And they're really communicative and they're chatty and they go and talk to people. But I don't see that all the time, and by a lot of stretch of imagination. And the more isolated, and I don't think COVID's helping that. That's why I think connection now is even more important than ever. And I'm hoping COVID's woken a lot of people up to really appreciate connection. And I think it's what a lot of people are yearning. And especially those who are isolated, who are on their own, who took for granted some relationships or took for granted connection was there and it's suddenly not. But then there is just communication and there's connection. And what does connection mean at a deep level? Like really connected to nature, connected to yourself, connected to others. So I think and this is why I'm building Raglan off that entire concept of connection, because I just think it's something that I'm constantly working on. I think it's something if my kids can get that bit right, I think everything else will flow for them. So, and I think we all need it, don't we? Isn't that the thread that pulls us all together?
We'll leave it that as an open question. I think we cannot go better than that. I think you sum it up, and it's great. I can't wait to discover that place. I don't think I'm gonna wait that it comes to Paris. We'll see. Maybe I take a boat to go to England to see it. Anyways, you know what? Where can we find you before you go pick up your son? Where can we find you? What can we see? We're gonna put all the links.
I think just start with Deri.live. That's my personal website. You'll see there's a lot of the video content up there. That's why I talk about a lot of the topics.
Yeah, amazing videos, yeah.
In the next few months, that'll evolve more. You'll see a whole new series coming out around productivity and high performance. So there's that will constantly. If you kind of follow me there, you'll get any of the new stuff. And there's links to BGI from there. Raglan Country Estate's not there yet as a link, but that's coming at Raglan Country Estate now, and you'll see a lot more when it does open more fully. Raglan will come out. You'll see it from Deri.live as well.
Thank you so much, Deri. It was amazing. Thank you for taking the time for the Creativity podcast. I will let you know when everything is out. And you know what? Have a great day.
Bless you. Take care.